Let's create a pivotal impact. Hey everybody, Josh Hannabury here, Truck Focus Podcast. And first off, hope you're having a really good day. Super hyped for today's episode as I get to speak to someone named Kurtis, who is a over-the-road professional driver out of Australia. And he's currently, well, that's where he's from. That's where he lives. And I am so hyped for a couple of reasons. First off, Kurtis's story is just really empowering. It's really exciting when you see when transportation operating as a professional driver is part of the family tree. I think that's really cool. But just Kurtis's story and the different types of equipment that he gets to operate, if I can say down under, like I think that's super awesome. But also, I would say his perspective on the industry and how, he really sees it as a passion and he definitely takes it seriously. But he's also showing the cool side about hauling super, super heavy equipment. And I'm super grateful for today's episode as well, because for me, I never thought we would take the podcast to a sense where it's a global podcast, where outside of Canada, maybe even outside of Alberta, now we're in Australia. I think that's super cool. And I'm super grateful for Kurtis and his time. Just again, he's out working and he took this episode, he took the time to, obviously we do a little bit of like beforehand stuff during the recording. I'm just super grateful. So definitely highly recommend that. If you have questions for Kurtis after this episode that you reach out, I'll include his Instagram information. So that way, you can just send him a quick note on there. Or of course, you can reach out to myself and I'll get you in contact with them. So before we get started, just a quick shout out again to our continuous, just constant listeners. So grateful for your investment of time. As well, if this is the first time you've ever checked out a Truck Focus podcast, I'm super grateful and I welcome you to our community. So I do ask that you like this episode, share it out, because to me, this is very different and it's super cool, as well as subscribe to the channel that you're listening on. If it's for the podcast, if it's for YouTube, just make sure you subscribe. That way you're notified of all upcoming episodes. It means the world. Let's get to it. Super hyped for just the impact that this conversation is going to have. Hey, Kurtis, welcome to the Truck Focus Podcast. Super jacked for our conversation today for a couple of reasons. First off, I want to highlight the fact that you're nowhere near close to where I live here in Canada. You're actually, how I would identify it is kind of in the land down under. So obviously in Australia, but even before we hit record, just hearing what the kilometers that you're putting on, the equipment that you're hauling, it's really fascinating. So I'm super excited to, welcome you onto the podcast, man. Thanks so much for joining.
No dramas, Josh. Thanks for having me, man. It's great to be here and pretty much anything, trucks and the transport industry. I love it all. So let's get into it, eh?
Totally. So start us off. Give us a rundown. Who is Kurtis and how did you get into trucking?
So I'm actually only 50 years old. I joined the Army when I was 18 years old, purely with the idea of going into trucks. I was a truck driver in the Army as well for 6.5 years. And that was good. That was great for experience. Like not many 18-year-olds, unless you live out in the farm or real rural in Australia, there's not many young guys that can get their foot in the door with driving big trucks and semis and road trains and dolly down like low loader work and all that sort of stuff. So, I started driving medium rigids, then heavy rigids, then heavy combinations. Then when I left, I ended up doing some dolly down work, moving the M1A1 Abram tanks for the Army, the old American ones that we got. So that was good. That was fun. In that 6 years, man, like I hauled everything from fuel, water, general freight, cars, armored cars, tanks. Even hauled a couple of Camels, which was fun. So just everything, man. We had a couple of Camels as our unit mascots in 26 Transport, and I was a Camel handler. So we just got to do parades and we used to take them to state fairs and all that sort of stuff around Australia. It was great. That was great. That was awesome. Like the Army really gave me a step up and gives you all sorts of experience in regards to transport as well. As long as you get with the right people, there's a lot of people that can teach you the wrong things. And that's a big setback for a lot of young guys because they think, this old fella knows what he's doing and whatnot. But you just got to take everything with a grain of salt because obviously everyone does everything differently. But it was good. I got in with the right people, I think, anyway. They gave me the right advice and helped me get where I am now.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I wasn't expecting you to say that when we were, but okay, that kind of makes sense now, though. Okay, I can see that. But some of the pictures you shared, they're in the blog article that I'll release with this episode. So those listening, watching, check out the blog link. But how do you call, you have we would call it something different up here, but what do you call those 3 triple trailers? What's that?
That's a triple road train.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's 53 meters over here, 53 and a half meters, depending on what trailers and everything you run. But it's about, like I said, it's about 170 foot long, and you can load those up to about 130 ton, which was, I don't know, what, 3,000 pounds or something like that. And that's, if you go out west, anywhere out here, everyone runs them because it's the cheapest, most cost-effective way to make money. And yeah, but we've got even bigger ones that, like, there's quad road trains out here, but they're just a different variation of trailers. But yeah, over here there's a massive difference. It's like we're same with you guys over in Canada and even the States and everything. Everyone has different like transport standards for what their trailers can do and how they do it. The thing that fascinates me with you guys is your like your dolly converters for like the low loaders and all that sort of stuff. Just completely different to how we run ours. And you see them on videos and online and everything, and you're like, wow, how does that even sort of work? Obviously it works because that's what they do, but yeah, it's just completely different to how we run all ours and stuff like that. But I find it all fascinating. I love it.
Totally. Yeah, me too, man. I'll spend hours on YouTube just being like, no way, look at that. No way, look at that. So, but I've never seen a quad before, actually. I've only seen triples, but I wasn't familiar with the name. So what would you haul if you're hauling a triple? Is it just general freight or is it mine weight, or what would you, what would you haul in those?
Yeah, so the triple road over here pretty much can haul anything. Like, we've got everything from general freight flat tops, taut liners, so like your canvas sides. Then you got scale trailers, which you can put containers on. A lot of those will run 20-foot mine waste, or not mine waste, but just mine product. It might even be gold concentrate coming out of the mines, or phosphate, or whatever they want to run out of them. We've got, where I work, we do civil construction, so we run side tippers, which is all road base and gravel and whatever needs to go to the site or go into the ground, you know what I mean? But then we've also got water tankers and whatnot we can hook up as a double road train and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, over here, and you got fridge vans as well, so you can get fresh produce from one end of Australia to the other end of Australia in 3 days or 5 days sort of thing, because it's a bit of a trip, you know. But yeah, you can get it across there, fresh fruit, fresh fish, all that sort of stuff. Cattle, livestock, pigs, sheep, all that sort of jazz. What else is there? There's heaps of stuff. All of our big things are done in oversized work, which is obviously just your platform trailers and your low loaders and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, the road train side of things is your general, like your 2.5 meters wide, like your standard size trailers and all the freight and stuff that can fit in the side of those, which works out pretty well.
Totally. Yeah, I was going to ask also on the heavier side for, I guess, over-dimensional stuff. Some of those pictures too were pretty phenomenal. So I'm assuming those would just be graders and loaders and whatnot for like in the mines, or is that just, you normally see that traveling kind of throughout the roads too?
Yeah, absolutely. Like that grader I sent you a photo of, that's only a small grader, really. It's only 2.6 meters wide. It weighs 45,000 pounds. Yeah, it's not a big one, but that's just what we use over here. And for where we work, you can't really be getting the little stuff. You sort of need some of the bigger things. Like we work very rural, like where we work. We're actually going to do a job next week, and the closest town with a shop is 400 kilometers away. Yeah, so 300 miles to the closest shop and barely any reception, if that. So we'll be out there for a few weeks, and just is what it is. You know, you got to work out there to make the money, and we'll do 14, 15 hours a day, 16 hours a day sometimes, you know, just because why wouldn't you? Like, what else are you going to do? You're going to sit there and look at the stars or something. You can keep working and make money. Like, stuff it. Why not?
For sure. Are you in camp environment then, or trailers, or what are you sleeping in?
Where we're going, I've actually, what is it? What's today? Sunday. Yeah, Tuesday I'm heading up there to go and get the camp out of where it used to be at the moment, and I'm taking it down to where it's got to go to set it all up and everything. So yeah, it's we've got 40-foot containers that they've converted into 4 rooms, but for me, I don't particularly care, you know, like it's got a bed, it's got its own toilet, its own shower, and then we've got a 20-foot container that's converted into a kitchen as well. So everything's all in there, you know. It's got a big generator pack on it, runs all the air cons, runs everything, runs the fridges. It's all you need, you know? As long as the boss fills the food, I don't particularly care where I'm staying.
For sure. Yeah, So we call it the oil fields here in where I live in Alberta, which is, yeah, so you're
Yep.
familiar with it. So I did the just under 2 years of oil fields, and yeah, some of the equipment still to me, I'm kind of like some of the shovels and heavy haul trucks are kind of like, man, that's not even human made. Like that's nuts. But yeah, camp life was fun. Like I had, I felt spoiled just because you want more sandwiches? Yeah. So it was good.
Yeah. Oh, our campsite's good. Like you probably would have been in a camp with what, 50, 60 people plus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like our camp, 10-man camps, we'll have probably 6, 7 workers, and then we'll have a supervisor and then a mechanic. And if you can't fix it where you are, you've got a 3-day wait to get parts and a 1,000-kilometer round trip to go and get the part. And it's you sort of need to take everything with you. We got a couple of containers that we take out with us that are just full of parts and hydraulic hoses and lines and fittings and all that sort of jazz, because you need it. You can't just go down to Super T. We can't just go down to your local Walmart or whatever and get a fitting. You need to take it with you, because if you don't have it, you're down for 2-3 days, and we don't have time to be down for 2 or 3 days out there. So you don't make any money when you're downtime. So
right, yeah.
Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance, really.
I like that. Yes, absolutely. So what would you say in your hauling journey, do you feel like doing what you're doing right now has been your favorite, or what would you say has been your favorite, I guess, if it's machine, if it's product to haul consistently?
So it sounds really strange, but my lowest paying job that I've ever had was my favorite. This is my second favorite because I just enjoy the lifestyle of just what we do and how everything's different, and everything's always different. But the job I had before this, I was actually moving houses for a company in Brisbane called Queensland House Removers. Great company. If you're ever looking to buy a house in Queensland, do it. But we used to move all the old houses, like the whole house. Phenomenal. It was the most fun job. You come out of Brisbane at 30 foot wide. You're lifting all the trailers are hydraulic and everything. So you're lifting a house up and over parked cars on the side of the road, and it'll take you 3 hours to do a mile. You're just crawling. The trailers are all steerable, getting around. You put in the trailer, like the house, on a 15-degree angle to bend it around power poles and trees and other buildings. It was phenomenal, and it's just a massive rock show. Because we moved a house, 2-piece house, out from a local suburb out about 500 kilometres to another where it was going. And it took nearly 12 hours to do 350 miles, I think it works out at. It was just a very long, slow night. And it is what it is. But we went out there, we had, 3 pilots, 3 cop escort, police escorts. We had a service truck for the trailers, and then we had a work ute behind us, or in front of us, sorry, and they were going out and removing all the street signs and all this sort of stuff that we had to get out of the way, and you're driving on the wrong side of the road just to get around places. The cop will go up and he'll block the road, and people are like, what the hell is this doing at 2 a.m. in this little bum no town, bumfuck town somewhere? And they're like, why is there a copper in the middle of the road? And then they just see a friggin' house come at them. They're like, oh shit, there's a house. And where we rolled into was about 8 a.m. in the morning, and peak hour for this little town. So I think I was probably a population of maybe 3,000 or 4,000, but still a little busy town. And we rolled down the main road, and all these people are coming out of the cafes and bakeries, like, oh, what's all these? Because the coppers and the pilots are about 5-10 miles ahead of us, to give trucks warning, because all the roads out there are only single lane each way. So where the width of 2 or 3 lanes, they need to get off the whole road entirely. And all these people are, why the hell are all these coppers and stuff driving around town with their lights on and getting people out of the way? And then, these 2 house pieces roll down the street, and they're like, oh, and you see all the phones come out, and everyone's having a good look and a good gander. And it was different, man. I loved it. It was great. You work with great guys. They were all young. We used to take houses over onto islands, mate. We'd hire a barge, and you'd drive a house onto a bloody barge, and then take the barge over to the island and drive it off. And it was awesome. That was a really fun job. It was very technical. Me personally, I prefer oversized work to road train work. Road trains are fun, whatever. But something about oversized work is you really got to sort of pay attention, and you're usually a lot heavier and you're wider. It's just, I prefer oversized work, but it's just It's all fun, man. I love anything to do with trucks, to be honest. I'll drive a medium rigid if you're going to pay me. I don't care. I just love anything.
So awesome. So it's interesting that you mentioned that because I didn't know that, but something on I think it was my Twitter feed showed me a combination that I've never seen before. But yeah, all of the trailers were hydraulic and there's like 9 pictures and the guy was like, yeah, check this out. And I'm like, man, that is nuts. So, but yeah, being in that moment, that's crazy. So is that common then? Like, do a lot of people, instead of say, I'm going to sell my house and go buy a different house, they'll move their house? Is that common?
A lot more common than what I thought, to be honest. When I first started with this company, there's 3 companies in Brisbane that do it, right? Or main companies, sorry. I went to this company in just honestly thinking that, we're going to move 1 house a month, 2 houses a month, and like nothing crazy. Yep, there's a lot of prep work, yada, yada, yada. I go in there and I said, oh, yeah, sweet. Like, I'll be like, oh, we're moving a house. And I was like, oh, cool. Like, we're going to do another one in 2 weeks or something. He's like, no, we got another one tomorrow night as well. I was like, oh, crap. Like, righto, let's go. Like, we're into it. We're moving 2, 3, sometimes 4 houses a week, man. And we were doing like Brisbane to Rockhampton, which is 400 miles, 600 kilometers, all the way down to New South Wales. We were going everywhere, man. Like, it wasn't just from around the corner and whatever. It was that, like, these houses were going places, man. Like, some of these houses have gone further than some people have traveled. You know what I mean? It was an eye opener, and I was like, wow, like a lot of people are doing this. And even with COVID over here, I don't know how America and Canada went in regards to their lockdowns. I wasn't really following it too much, but Australia sort of went crazy, to say the least. We pretty much lost all of 2019. If you weren't in a important role, I guess you'd say, transport, whatever. But if you did cafe or restaurants, you were pretty much out of a job, which was pretty shit. But it is what it is. But even with COVID, like, apparently everyone just found money. Like, our property market over here in Australia increased by 15%. A house that was $400,000 was now worth $600,000. It was crazy. It just went stupid. But that's the same thing happened with these removable houses. Like, people were, it was big, like it was solid, but then it was, oh crap, we're booked out for the next 7 months straight, moving this house, going to this house here, moving it, yada, yada, yada. And we get a rain delay and we have to push a house back. And it used to only be, we pushed you back for a month, man, and we'll get new permits, no dramas. Now it was, sorry, bud, we've got all these houses and all these permits booked in. We need to move you in 7 months' time. Like, sorry, it rained, but we can't push everyone back, you know what I mean? Because it takes a few, depending on how big you go and what you need, it can be a few days to get a permit, or it can be 6-7 weeks to get a permit, you know what I mean? Because you need to have the police available, you need to have pilots available, and yeah, it's crazy. It's a massive rock show, and that's what I liked about it, and it was just fun to do. I just, enjoyed the crap out of it, but definitely fun.
Yeah, man. I know that house movers like exist here, but to be honest, I don't know if I've ever actually seen one in motion on a roadway. So I don't know. I could be totally out of line if it's super popular and if it is, sorry, Canadians, but I think that's just really, really cool. But yeah, seeing the equipment that you guys have, and just obviously pilots and police, and just a big crew. Like you say, it's a rock show. It's a very fair comparison for sure.
We used to move all their houses at night, so 99% of people would go to bed one night with an empty block of land next to them, and they'd wake up in the morning, there'd be a friggin' house sitting there, and they're like, what the fuck? It was great. Like, mind you, we used to wake up at 2 in the morning when we'd roll in there, and there'd be police and whoopee lights going, and they'd usually walk out and go, what the hell's going on out here? And you got a house backing in onto the block of land next to them. They're like, oh, okay, well, that explains.
So cool. So can you talk to me about your Instagram account? Obviously, that's how we became connected. And I love, man, some of the stuff you put up there is, again, I think it's really badass. So can you walk us through, like, do you have like an influencer mission? Is it just, hey, I think this looks cool, others will too? Or what's kind of the goal? But also, can you name drop your Instagram account so people can go check you out?
Yeah, man. So it's all camel 4x4 adventures. And it literally started as a joke, man. I got to give a shout out to 2 other blokes as well. So 4B Seasons Australia and Happy Go Travel. So we went 4-wheel driving years ago, and I told them a story about how I fell off a camel when I was in the army and broke both my wrists and got scarred on my back and my ribs and everything. Like, it was a real shit show, but it was fun. But I told them this story, and from then on, they just called me Camel, And anyone I've ever told the story to, they just go, Camel, what's going on? It's hilarious. It's a good story. It was a good time. But they're like, oh man, if you ever start something up, you should just do it something camel related as a laugh. And I don't know if you guys know like Russell Coit, like All Aussie Adventures. Do you guys have that over in Canada? It's
not familiar now.
Yeah, just a comedy show, just a real skit show about this bloke. He just goes out in the bush and it's real funny, like just a real stupid show, good for a laugh, just Aussie larrikin because it's funny, like who cares? So obviously I replaced the Aussie with camel, so it was all camel adventures, 4x4 adventures. And it started off as just showing off the car and doing a couple of things. Like I went from a tub to a tray, so I put the tray build on there and did a canopy setup for a little while and did a few other things, and then obviously started this job and just sort of didn't lose interest in full drive. I still love full driving, but I thought, well, hell, I can't post anything in regards to full drive, so I'm going to post trucks. And to be honest, I'm quite lazy. I really could not be bothered starting a whole new account just for my truck. So I was like, this will do. Who cares? And yeah, I don't care if I lose followers, gain followers, get 4 views, get 4,000 views. Don't really care. It's just fun and I enjoy it. That's how I enjoy it. And yeah, I saw your podcast on there as well and read the description and had a listen to the podcast. And I thought, yep, this is pretty cool. Like I enjoy people who are passionate about the industry as well and trucks especially, and being a different country. Like it's awesome. I just love everything about it. So I thought, hell yeah, we'll get in contact and have a chat.
Totally agree. Yeah. And I'm glad you did start posting on the trucks because obviously that's how we got connected. And some of once you're an enthusiast for the industry and once you appreciate what actually goes into even loading, say, an excavator onto a flat deck or a low boy, actually tying it down and traveling, like that's a really deep appreciation. So when you see it in a good, like you take good pictures and good videos. So it's like, man, that is so sweet. And then again, being in different countries and continents, I think is really badass too. So I'm definitely glad that we were able to connect in that environment because that's a power of social media. And yeah, I just think it's fascinating just seeing the different types, even your tractor, like just seeing that type of content, that type of appearance. I think it's super cool. So I'm really glad that we could obviously have that conversation.
Yeah, definitely. That's another thing that like, it doesn't weird. Like you guys call prime movers tractors, like tractor trailers. And we just call them prime movers or like, just your truck or whatever. So most we call them like your prime mover or you just your truck sort of thing. But yeah, that's always given me a bit of a giggle and your tractor's rolling down the road. And we just call farm tractors, like you'll probably find 1.5 blokes will call that tractor.
Yeah. That's when I first learned tractor. I'm like, that's what I thought. I'm like, farm tractor. So I called it truck. And they're like, yeah, it's not a truck. It's like, okay, but yeah. So you call it a prime mover? I'm going to remember that. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Very cool. So, but yeah, honestly, man, this has been fun and I'm super grateful that obviously you're on the work site. So I'm grateful we could get together when you're working, but just hearing your perspective and yeah, I know that there's more stories. So I honestly, if you're ever down to hop on again, I'd be totally down just if it's deep dive stuff.
Yeah. Like we do a lot of stuff over here, especially in North Queensland. Like the company I work for now, we just work all of in all of Queensland over here in Australia. And the work that I do, like I do a lot of the float moves for all the machinery. So like the excavators, the graders, the rollers, other trucks that are going to get floated somewhere, so we don't have to drive them 1,000 kilometers. It's great. Like you'll go from one end of Queensland to the other in 2 days, and it's 1,600 miles, and you haven't even crossed a state border. You know what I mean? Like it's just, yeah, it's freaking awesome. I love it. So you can do a full lap and go around Queensland. And I've been with this company 8 months and I've probably done 70,000 kilometers. A lot of times been in crew as well. So not doing big days, but just doing things here and there. And I've never crossed a state border and just gone frigging all over the place. I love it. I don't need to go anywhere else. I've seen the rest of Australia pretty much, but yeah, I love working up here. It's rural. You might not see another car, another truck for 3 or 4 hours, man. Sometimes you won't see another truck for 12 hours at night. It's great. You just cruise along and, drive through a town. Everyone's asleep already. Yep, no dramas. Keep going. There's towns out here that have got populations of 50, 40 people, you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing out here. It's great. And it's just down the road is a 200-kilometer trip. Oh, yeah, I'm just going down to the next town. Yeah, it's 200 kilometers.
So I need to ask, just because I'm Canadian, but how often do you get to see kangaroos? Is that like a very common animal or only in certain areas?
Mate, obviously the cities and the stuff like that, it's a bit more rare because a lot of population. But where we work, you'll wake up in the morning, and this isn't even a joke. I'll try and get a video for you. You'll wake up in the morning, and there will be kangaroos outside the door. I'm not even shitting you. Like, up there, they're everywhere, man. And there is a reason why we have bull bars, and they shouldn't be called bull bars. They should be called roo bars, because more likely than not, you are going to hit 20 or 30 a night when you were driving, and you just got to hope that they're the little ones and not the big red ones, because the big red ones will write your truck off, and the little ones will just tear shit out from underneath. So you try not to hit them, but there's that many. Just, you can't avoid it, mate. It's just, they're everywhere. Yeah, I'll try good photos and videos of some wildlife. There's emus, a lot of emus up here as well. They just do whatever the hell they want to do. Cassowaries, where I'm up in far North Queensland, like tropical North Queensland. A lot of rainforests around here. I actually saw one yesterday on the way out to Mission Beach down here. And it was, 5 foot tall and probably weighed 80 kilos, like decent sized cassowary. But yeah, there's everything. There's lots of cows, because they're massive cattle stations up here too. They've got 500 kilometers worth of fencing to look after just on one side that goes to the road, so it's not hard for a tree to fall on that and then the cows to get out, and you'll be rolling down the road at 1 a.m. in the morning and, there's a herd of cattle in the road, and you got to stop real quick with a very big excavator or something on the back. It happened to me and a mate. We were running as a team the other night, and he's just on the radio, hit the brakes, mate. And I was like, oh crap, or whatever. We thought that because there was a lot of rainfall, so the roads were flooding. So we were trying to beat the rain, and he's like on the brakes, and I thought, the road's covered in water. We'll go through it nice and slow. And I've seen his spotlights go on, and I was like, oh, that's not water. That's a whole heap of cattle. And we just rolled up on these cows. They didn't want to move, so we just had to keep driving forward real slow at them, and then they decided to get a roll on. Instead of going off the road, they decided to run down the road. So we're like, stupid animals, that's why we eat you.
If you could, man, please, I've seen a picture of a kangaroo, but I am that ignorant that I've never seen anything past that. So that would be hilarious.
Yeah. But I'll find something. As I said, mate, they're absolutely everywhere out here. I'll get you a nice selfie with some road up, a nice ripe one.
Oh man, that would be amazing. Yeah, dude, this was fun, and
right.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and I do, and I appreciate obviously the follow through, because we could have chatted on the Instagram and then it went nothing, or I guess it went nowhere. But I'm really glad that you could hop on, and if you did want to come back, totally down. I'd love to hear more just on, it's like, I did this trip, or I would love to, if you want to share the camel story as we close, I'm totally down with that too. That's actually a perfect way.
Yeah. So back in, I think it was 2015 or 16, somewhere around there, we had a couple of camels as mascots, and I was a camel handler, and so I used to look after them, feed them, train them, sort of thing. And they hadn't been trained for a few years once I got to them. So we're like, all right, we'll get back into it. So we used to have saddles for them and all this sort of stuff. We used to take them to shows. But they have a nose peg. That's how you control them, because it's real sensitive in their nose. And anyway, so we were walking them for weeks and weeks, and they got real good. They'd sit down when you told them to. They were becoming very obedient, like any sort of animal. And so me and a mate, we put the saddles on them. We're like, we'll go for a ride. And we went for a ride, and we actually had the New Zealand Army, some of them staying with us where we were. And we're like, we'll take the camels over there. We'll let them ride around them, because they don't really have camels, assuming, like in New Zealand. I don't know. So we let a heap of these Kiwis ride around on the camels. Like, we walked them around for them and stuff, and they had a blast. But this one Kiwi chick, she was a horse rider, and she's like, I need to lower the stirrups so I can sit on it. And I was like, yeah, no dramas. Didn't even think about it, and lowered them for her. All good. And then when I used to have my stirrups on the camel, I used to have them really high because when a camel runs, I don't know if you've ever seen it, they're really awkward and they bounce, and it's not like a horse where it sort of stays flat. You only have to be 4 inches off off the horse's back. With a camel, you need to be like 8 inches off the top of this hump because it just goes everywhere and it's ridiculous. Anyway, this Sheila's dropped the stirrups on me, and I said, yeah, no dramas. Got on him, and I was like, oh, these are really low. I was like, nah, it'll be all right. I'll get back to the yard. I was only going 500 meters, Anyway, started going all good, rolling around, and I was on the boy camel, Sammy, and my mate was on the girl camel, Carly. But Sammy's hump was about 6.5, 7 foot off the ground. So I'm like, yeah, no dramas, and I'm rolling. And then he's seen the yard, and Carly, the other camel's gone flying past him, and he's just gone, we're going home, let's go. And he started bucking, and I was like, oh, crap, righto. And I've done it 100 times before, just jumped off. But I was wearing steel toe boots. Anyway, thrown the left leg over the back and done the old push off the hump. And as I've done that, my right foot with the steel toe, the cap got caught in the stirrup. Yeah. Anyway, I just pivoted in midair. The last thing I remember, my face was about a foot off the bitumen, and I was out. Anyway, I woke up in the yard about 50 meters away, and my mate who went past me turned around and saw me getting dragged. And it was this side. Lost all the skin on the side of my face, down the back of my ribs, on my back and everything. And woke up and they called an ambulance. And the funny thing was, because we had an ambulance station on base, they got the call because it was right on lunchtime. And one thing, and if you have any defense listeners or anything from any country, they'll know that the Defense Force loves to fuck with you on your days off or lunchtime, just to ruin your day because it's funny for them. Anyway, so they got a phone call at lunchtime going, this dude's fallen off a camel, like he needs an ambulance. And they're like, yeah, righto, like no dramas. No ambulance rocks up. And I'm sitting there all bloodied and everywhere, like all my uniform was all torn up, and like I was just a mess. Couldn't even drink water. I was just like concussed through and through. And they called back 5 minutes later, like, we need an ambulance. Like, this dude's like hurt. And they're like, okay, we'll come down. They rolled down, no lights and sirens, just rolled in. They're like, oh shit, like this dude's actually effed up. Like, we need to sort this out. Like, this is way above our pay grade. Called a real ambulance. They go to get on. They get to the front gate where the security are, and they say, oh, there's a guy falling off a camel. We need to come in. They're like, no, you're lying. So they stopped the real ambulance coming on. Anyway, they finally got on. But in the meantime, the Air Force doctor's looking at me, and my wrist was about 2 inches lower than where it should have been. Never broken a bone in my life, but this wrist was like here, like it was way down. And he goes, oh, what's happened today? I was like, I fell off a camel. He's like, oh, what hurts? I was like, I've broken my wrist. And he goes, and so this is an Air Force officer, so you're supposed to be very yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir, jerk me off, whatever. And I've broken my wrist. And he goes, are you a doctor? And I said, no. And he's like, well, I'm the doctor. I'll determine that. I was like, how about I break your wrist and you tell me if you know it's broken or not? And everyone's like, Frami, you can't say that. Like, he's an officer. I was like, I do not care. I'm in severe pain. I've broken my wrist. Like, oh, you have broken your wrist. I was like, I fucking told you. I know. He's like, here's a green whistle. And he gave me the whistle. And the nurse was like, oh, I'll cover the hole so you get pain relief faster. It's like, yeah, no dramas. And yeah, anyway, the ambulance come, and they're like, it was these 2 Sheilas, and they're like, oh, like actual camels. Like, we thought it was a code word for some machine or something. Like, we didn't know. And they're like, we can't go in there because there's like an animal and stuff. And I was like, yeah, no drama. So I walked in. They're like, you can't walk. We don't know if you've got spinal injuries. I was like, just get me to the hospital. I need to go somewhere. And went to the hospital and got an X-ray all up and down my body. And then, they did my wrist, obviously, because it was broken. And the funny thing was, I remember, and it didn't matter. They asked me what day it was. And I think it was like a Thursday. And I was like, Monday? Like, I was proper concussed. I couldn't even do nothing. And they took me to the hospital, and even though I was like out of my head on morphine, in severe pain, all this sort of stuff, I was like, my other wrist was a bit hairy gum. I was like, if I get them to X-ray it and it's broken too, I'm going to have 2 hands in casts, and I'm going to be in a hospital and have somebody else like wipe my ass for me for 6 weeks. I was like, I don't want that. So I won't say anything about it. Anyway, the wrist that was broken was absolutely shattered. Like, everything that was in there was supposed to be nice white lines and everything. It was just all grey mist. I was like, oh, cool. Went to the surgeon, like the specialist, and he's like, yeah, you're coming in for surgery tomorrow. Like, it's cactus. I was like, yeah, cool. Went in there. Long story short, went in 2 weeks later for a checkup, and he goes, oh, cool, how's everything feeling? It's like, yeah, no dramas. I was like, oh, by the way, this one's a bit sore. And he goes, I'll go down and get an x-ray, come back. I was like, no dramas. Come back and he goes, and this is a really cool doctor. He's like, what the hell? I was like, what do you mean? He goes, what the fuck have you been doing for the last 2 weeks? Like, how have you been doing anything? I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, that wrist is worse than the other wrist. I was like, how so? And he goes, well, all this stuff here is supposed to be like this, and it's even worse than what that wrist was. He's like, how have you been doing anything? I was like, well, you give me some really good painkillers, so that helps. And he goes, yeah, fair enough. And he's like, you're coming in for surgery tomorrow to get that wrist done as well. And I said, oh, well, there you go. So, yeah, in the end of it, ended up having 3 wrist surgeries on one and 2 on the other, and still need a wrist reconstruction at some point in the future, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. And yeah, it was crazy, man. Like it was just different. Like I had people calling me from Darwin and the other, like the top end of Australia and the bottom end, like down in South Australia, calling me going, "Boy, who's the dude that filmed the camel?" I was like, "Yeah, that was me." And that was 6 hours later. You know, like friends and everything that are all across the call me going, "What the hell's going on?" I'm like, "Yeah, I felt the camel," and they just laugh. And I was like, "Yeah, cheers, guys." I got some really good photos. Like I'm in hospital with a cast on and like blood and everything, and my mates are like behind me, like taking like thumbs up, smile, and I was like, "Yeah, you guys are real supportive. Appreciate that." But that's just you know, military humor is pretty sadistic and have a good laugh, and as long as no one dies, it's not that bad. But yeah, it was great. It was good.
Wow.
Yeah. That's usually get from a. I don't think I've ever not had someone laugh at that story when I've told. It's who else do you know that's fallen off a camel and been fucked up pretty well?
No doubt. Holy crap. Man, that's hilarious. Man. Well, I'm glad you're okay now.
Yeah. Can't be that bad.
Jeez. Well, I will. Maybe my face hurts because when you were sharing it, I'm trying not to laugh and overtake the mic.
It's all good, bud. All good.
Oh, dude. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate the honesty. Again, I'm glad you're okay. But man, this to me, I won't lie, man. This is a milestone for me. Like the fact that we're having a conversation, the fact obviously you're a trekking enthusiast, but that story, that is hilarious. So I'm glad you shared. I appreciate that.
I love it. But like awesome. I said, appreciate you having me on, man. Like I love everything to do with trucks and transport industry. Like there's obviously a lot more other people that know a lot more about everything than I do. But me personally, you don't learn something every day, you start dying. You know what I mean? Like every day is an opportunity to learn something, whether it just be the tiniest little thing, you know, but every day that you can learn something new about something that you do enjoy is a good day. You know what I mean? So that's how I look at everything in life and work. And yeah, you keep moving forward and keep on trucking and keep it shiny side up, eh? No truck needs to lay down.
Totally agree. So, well, Kurtis, thank you again, man. I appreciate it. And yeah, totally down to have you on again. Keep me posted on your journeys and get me a picture of a kangaroo. Okay, see you, man.
Hey, buddy.
Well, as I told you in the introduction, and as you could hear throughout, this was such a great episode. And I'm so thankful, Kurtis, that you took the time to hop on the podcast and just share your journey, share your experience. And it was really cool just listening to your perspective on the industry. Obviously, you're hauling some pretty heavy weights. You're hauling some pretty cool equipment. It's awesome to know that it's in your family tree. And I'm just so grateful that you took the time to hop on. It really does mean the world. Highly, highly, highly recommend that if you have questions about what is trekking like over in a different continent, if you're listening to this in Canada or in the United States, reach out to Kurtis. I've included his Instagram information below. So that way, in the show notes, of course, that way you can reach out to him, ask him questions. And yeah, he has some pretty cool videos and pictures that you can see on there too. So I'm just, again, Kurtis, thank you so much. Really appreciate you hopping on. And to all of our dedicated listeners, as well as to those that if this is the first time you've ever checked out a Trek Focus podcast, I'm just really grateful. And it really does mean a lot that you've invested the time to check out this episode and others. So like I said before, I do ask that you subscribe to the channel that you're listening to, like this episode and share it out. Let's get Kurtis's message out there because it's super empowering. So again, thank you so much, Kurtis. As always, let's create a pivotal impact. Bye.